Never been to Canada though.
Hey, we're recording, top of the hour.
Yes, thank you. So I'll go ahead and kick us off with some introductions as y'all keep popping through the chat and letting us know where y'all are tuning in from. I am so excited to host this call today, along with Allison Cardona, for a powerhouse of a speaker. I mean, literal chill bumps giving of a speaker, Diana Prado. So thank you for joining us today. I'll go ahead and kick it off to Allison, who will give us an update on our steering committee and some new faces that y'all should be seeing soon.
Thank you so much, Shanye. It's an honor to be here and so exciting that you're on this committee. And yes, Maddie's Fund wanted to announce the newest members of the steering committee. For the past year, there was one group and a couple of folks are phasing off, including myself and Bobby Mann and Ariel Zhang. But there's an incredible steering committee that is planning, recruiting speakers, and just all around being incredible. And they are, and I believe Allison Gibson is posting them in the chat, but it's Nadia Osguera, Shanye Johnson, Jose Ogaño, Lawrence Minnis, Shannon Roebuck, Claire Callison, Renina McCaskill, and Sheila Danya Kukan. And we're so thrilled. They will be meeting to plan these calls and just really looking forward to everyone seeing them and hearing their brilliance. So welcome.
Yes, I cannot thank everyone enough, and I know I can speak for some of our other people on the call, but feel free to chime in and give us some emojis and some love. That we are happy that the group that came before us has done such incredible groundwork to have these calls still going after they started, and to just offer that support for everyone weekly, to have that safe space, and to just share the newest ideas that are working within our organizations, and to really help our community. So we're really excited to have y'all here, and I know the presentation is just going to blow everyone out of the water because your energy is literally chef's kiss unmatched. So thanks for kicking us off on this wonderful Monday. We should have some time to jump into some national updates. So if you have any of those on the call, feel free to pop them in the chat or to unmute yourself, just to respect Diana's time and to give her the maximum floor space. We want to try to keep those updates to about 6 to 8 minutes total if we can. So go ahead and unmute yourselves if y'all would like to let us know what's going on in your orgs.
Hi, everybody. Kathy from Canada here. I'll put a link in the chat, but the call for speakers for next year's Summit for Animals being held in beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia is up. And so I encourage you to apply.
Hey everyone, it's Lindsay Hamrick with the Humane Society of the United States. That was a lovely segue for me. Our Animal Care Expo speaker submissions are due at midnight tonight, so I will share that link in the chat. You can also submit a roundtable discussion, you can submit a coffee chat, you can submit a poster presentation, lots of ways to join us at Expo next year.
Hi everyone, Emily Geld from the ASPCA. The Access to Veterinary Care Conference is now open for registration. It's happening virtually from October 16th to 19th. And we do have scholarships available for individuals who bring an underrepresented voice, experience, or perspective. So I'll throw that link in the chat.
Hey everyone, I'll hop in. Charlotte for Maddie's Fund. I just wanted to share that this month our resource drive on Maddie's Pet Forum is focused on pet-friendly housing. So very timely with today's presentation, but our goal is to create a database of pet-inclusive housing resources so that we can help pet owners of all breeds and sizes stay together. So if you have resources to share or something that you're looking for, please share them on the thread. I'll drop the link in the chat. And remember that by participating in that conversation, you'll be entered to win a gift card and a $3,000 grant. So today's July 31st. Here's your last chance to get your entries in for the month. So thank you.
The Midwest Animal Sheltering Conference is open for registration. That's October 27th through 29th. This year it's going to be in Springfield, Missouri, and actually overlaps with the Animal Control Conference as well for one day. So we're super excited to have an opportunity to share sheltering and field information, and hopeful that everybody will come and join us.
And it's Shanye over here at Operation Kindness. We are actually teaming up with Dogs Playing for Life for their National Playgroup Rockstar event coming up this fall. In October is where they're looking. They're hoping to partner with shelters all over the US to get a dog adopted straight out of playgroup and to really showcase how those types of programs can help our pets find homes, reduce their length of stay, increase their quality of life, reduce chance of sickness. So if any of your organizations are currently running playgroups, specifically Dogs Playing for Life style playgroups, feel free to reach out to me. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat and I can connect you with the right people so that we can get additional groups kind of just showcasing and highlighting those really adoptable dogs. And during that time, what's great about the playgroup is a lot of times it's our bigger, more powerful dogs that are out there. So they get to see them in a different light in our yards. So definitely spread the word. Shoot me an email if y'all have any questions and I'd be happy to connect you.
I wanted to jump in for a minute too, because I realized this is why I need to write things down, that I left some folks out. I wanted to give a big shout out to Ed Jameson, who was also on the original steering committee and is, yes, sunsetting out, but Shanye is wonderfully taking his place. And also a shout out to Charlotte Otero and Irene Chansawong, who are also on our members of Maddie's Fund, but have been incredible members, as well as Allison Gibson, and of course, our leader, Mary Ippolitis Smith. So just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Absolutely. I am, again, just floored by all of the amazing faces on this call. I feel like I always joke around like, Ed, I'm coming for your job. And he finally threw me a bone, y'all. So I don't got the CEO position, but this is top notch. And I'm just so happy to be able to kind of step in those footprints. So thank you all as well. So we are coming up right at about 1:10. So we'll go ahead and does anyone have any other national updates? I'll go ahead, and my communications professor said 8 seconds was appropriate. So we'll give y'all that. Okay, so we can go ahead and jump into your presentation if you'd like, Diana, and you can just blow us away. I am so pumped.
Oh, wow, yes, no pressure. No, hello everyone. I am so excited to be here. I'm like, I love you all. I love the animal welfare space, and I love that I'm bringing housing to you all. I'm like, woohoo, make you care about housing. You're like, we already cared. Well, now you care more. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share, and then I'm going to hit present. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to get the Spotify song, What's Love Got to Do with It? I don't know if you all caught on to that, but it's a play on What's Love Got to Do with It? Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, and what I wanted to share about was what's housing policy. Am I freezing? Am I okay? No, I'm great. Okay, great. And then you all let me know what's going on in the chat. Thank you. Go Tina, I know. What housing policy and how to intentionally advocate for housing policies as an animal welfare advocate. Because now, 10 years ago, homelessness wasn't sexy to talk about, right? It was like, oh, let's just talk about this over here. Or that's something that LA has, but not over here. And it wasn't sexy and it wasn't funded, right? Nobody cared about it. But then it became fundable. And then everyone wanted to get involved and everyone wanted to solve homelessness and everyone wanted to throw money at homelessness. And where there's money, then all of a sudden everyone starts applying for things, but with no intention, right? Just to like grab money and not really fulfilling the mission. And so I'm excited to talk about how we can now as these forces are joining together, as animal welfare and housing advocacy is joining together, how can we really advocate for pet inclusive housing? What does that mean?
Diane, I wonder if
yes.
is the black screen intentional, or should we be seeing something else?
Oh no, on the
Because a
black
lot of
screen?
people are seeing just dark, nothing, no slides.
Is everyone, raise of hands, is everyone just seeing?
Yeah, everybody's
slide?
seeing just a black screen.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, let me stop
You
sharing.
want to stop share and reshare?
Yeah, I am going to stop share and
Well,
reshare.
thanks for your patience, everybody.
No, thank,
Get this one.
yes, thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, let's try again.
Because it was working before, and
It was
then
working before we tried it.
suddenly it
Okay,
just
let me close out. Let me exit this full screen.
And it's 100% technology. Like we know it's not you. Like we know that we can blame the computer and all of the things.
right.
Okay, let's try again, y'all. Closed out. Share.
Okay,
Yep. Okay.
we can see
You can see this now. You can
yeah.
see that.
vision
And
mode.
then we're so much closer.
What?
This much closer. What about this? Black screen?
It's kind of strange. Do you want us to share
I was
this?
going to say, yeah, you can
Okay.
send us the
Oh,
link
maybe,
and I'll.
hey, hold on. Maybe if I do resume share.
We're seeing it, but it's not in presentation mode.
It's not in presentation mode. Okay, let me try one more time. And if not, then I will.
I have it pulled
this is
up,
what-
ready to go if
Yeah.
you're
Black screen or screen?
live stream the Canva.
No, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
We're not seeing it too well.
Okay. Why don't I'm going to stop share. We'll see. Well, this is fun. Oh, technology.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I thought I had it pulled up here.
I can, make up a fun song. It's a song.
Go ahead and sing to us. What's love got to do with it, baby?
Yeah. What's love got to do? Got to do with pets. What's love got to do with pets and housing? I'm here to tell you it's a lot, because pets need their homes and their families too. What's love got to do? You're like, that? Wow, look, just in time. Whew, that was good. Because that was going to get awkward, wasn't it? It really was. Yeah, you're welcome, y'all.
Is this correct?
Yes, that is super correct. Okay. And then I'll just do the fun next as we as I do that. Yeah, next. Okay, so of course, oh no, sorry. I meant before. I got excited. In all of my trainings, if you've seen me do these before, I give a land acknowledgement. One, because as a housing rights attorney, I acknowledge the fact that the lands that we are on is not our land, right? We are not owners of this land. We are stewards of this land. We are here to give service to the land. And historically, this land was, particularly in the United States of America, was not ours. It was of the indigenous people that were here, and it was taken from them. So we acknowledge that here in LA, where Heart LA is located, it is Tongva land, and I give that acknowledgement. If you ever want to also give a land acknowledgement or understand what land that you are on, you can text this phone number, and you can also go to this website, and it will tell you truly, like, even if you're in another country, in the South Americas, and I'm just like going to name different continents now, you can see what land you are on. And then for those of you that are like, oh, but I don't know, I feel awkward giving a land acknowledgement, like, I don't know, I'm not an indigenous person, happy more to like talk to you about it. Also, nativeland.ca, this website, has an awesome article on why to give land acknowledgements, how to give land acknowledgements. And as we talk about housing, it is important for me to acknowledge. Next. Okay, so when I gave a talk about housing last summer, and I gave 2019 numbers. In 2019, evictions were about 45,000, Now, last year, we finally got the numbers. Evictions in 2022 in LA County are now about 35,000, right? 34,398. And what I share this. Okay. I share this because evictions are now at the same level that they were pre-pandemic. And what this actually equates to is that it's 4 families evicted every hour, which is wild. So as we have this conversation today, 4 families, evictions are filed against 4 families, 4 households in LA County. Next. And then just to give a little bit more context to these numbers, in June of 2019, 3,200 evictions were filed. And in June of this year, that number is now risen to almost 4,500 evictions filed in LA County. I also want to share that through clients that we've represented in LA County, we had emergency protections for tenants with pets, and I'll discuss this a little bit later as we're talking about being intentional with our political advocacy with housing and pets. So we were successful at the beginning of the pandemic of getting legislation passed in LA City and LA County to specifically protect tenants with pets. And anyone that obtained a pet during the pandemic could not be evicted. In LA County, those protections ended at the end of March. And our numbers for tenants being harassed through their landlords spiked increasingly. And the evictions spiked increasingly beginning April. So the minute that protections end, we see that evictions are spiked. Next. And this is from evictionlab.org, a great resource for you to be able to see how many evictions are filed in your city or your state. And in a typical year, landlords file about 3.6 million eviction cases throughout the year, meaning all of these people are being rendered or threatened to be homeless. Next. So what does housing policy have to do with pets, right? Like so why are we talking about this? What is it? Which, now seems more normalized, right? It seems like, well, of course, pets live with their owners. Pets have owners. We've now just recognized this. And those are just official. Yes. Thank you so much. You know what? Thank you so much, Maria, for bringing that up. I'm going to stop. So I do want to say, I love being on a webinar. Feel free, truly ask questions throughout. I'm going to have time for questions and answers too, but throw in, comments and whatnot in the chats, because I actually want to bring this up. It's a great point that you brought up. Those are, yes, evictions that are recorded, meaning that we can file, those are what are filed in court, and we're able to obtain that data. I can't tell you the number of evictions, of illegal evictions and illegal harassment that occurs. Well, all harassment is illegal. That harassment that occurs to evict a tenant illegally, or to just scare a tenant out of their home without going through the legal process. That's why I'm like, if you had all listened to the talk that I had last year, one of the questions that I tell all animal welfare advocates to ask tenants that are surrendering or relinquishing their pet due to a housing related reason was, did you get a written notice? Was there something in writing? I think aside for about maybe 5 states in all of the United States, all the other states require a written notice. If there is no written notice, there is nothing legally enforceable. So to that point, many evictions and many people that are thrown out of their homes, it goes unrecorded. There's no data for it, right? There's no data set for it. So what does housing policy have to do with pets? Next. So a couple of statistics here. 66% of households own pets. 70% of pet owners acquired pets during the pandemic. And then one of the top reasons cited for pet surrender, this was through a Forbes article, was 12% inflation, so the cost of living. 10% rising rent, which is again, inflation, 7% vet bills, and 5% pet deposits. I thought this was fascinating because 3 of those 4 top-cited reasons all essentially are housing related costs, right? Rising rent, pet deposits, inflation. Inflation, our wages are stagnant. Our wages aren't getting any higher and our rents are getting higher. Milk is getting higher, butter is getting higher, toilet paper is getting higher. Our wages aren't getting higher. And people are not able to afford the basic cost of living, And I'm here, I'm also going to plug, because they go hand in hand, the fact that the stigma we're breaking down is who is deserving of a home and who is deserving of a pet, right? It was so great. In one of the last talks that the Maddie's Fund, I'm like, one of these last talks that we did, or something I was listening to, I'm like, something I was listening to through Maddie's, we were talking about breaking down the stigma of home ownership, right? And that it became like a goal, like this like dream, right? Like the American dream to own a home. Not only is that just not very attainable anymore because of the lack of affordability of it, also part of why I'm excited to be part of this space is just breaking down the stigma of ownership, right? Going back to the land acknowledgement, this isn't our land to own. And so with that, breaking down the stigma of, that you have to be of a certain income, or you have to have a home to own a pet, or you need to have a yard, or you need whatever it is that our beliefs have limited us into believing that you need to have a certain amount of things to own a pet, and that also you need to like own a home or reach this level of American dream. That just isn't, it's what we're breaking down now. It's just what isn't making sense. And in order to be able to keep families together, we need to be able to look outside that box and realize that we have renters, right? We have families, huge families in 1-bedroom homes that also have 2 or 3 pets. And whereas before people would be like, oh, how's everyone going to fit in there? Quite easily, quite happily, quite fantastically, frankly, are some families that are able to do that at this moment right now. Next. So I want to talk about, I want to talk about Cali, because in talking about housing policies and being intentional, here are some special ways that California has been able to cross that bridge. And then in general, I want to talk about housing policies and rent control. So in California, we have the California Pet Friendly Housing Act, which is any government funded housing built on or before 2018 has to allow at least 1 pet. And this is aside from what is support animal issues, meaning assistance animals that are protected by federal and state fair housing laws. And those are the main protections that normally everyone hears about. Oh, is your animal a support animal? If your animal is a support animal, then you're protected. And that is a different type of, while that is great and it's an amazing protection, it's also limiting to those people that have a disability, right? You need to be a person with a disability in order to be able to use fair housing protections. And so what about everyone else, right? What about the folks that don't consider themselves a person with a disability and do need assistance, right? And do want to be able to stay with their pets. And so until we get pets as familial status discrimination, where can we work from here? How do we help those tenants with pets? So as I stated a little bit earlier, in the beginning of the pandemic, in the city of Los Angeles and in the county of Los Angeles, we were able to get an ordinance that protected tenants with pets who had obtained a pet during COVID. They couldn't be evicted for their pet. Sadly, in LA County, because the county of LA is split into the county, and then also there's the city. I'm sure, in all of your other places too, there's fun little, boroughs and little cities within like the county that have their own protections and their own rules. The county of LA did not continue to enforce these protections. They ended those protections. The city of LA, however, did continue to enforce those protections. And it's been incredibly useful, okay? Landlords, regardless of whether or not they know about tenant protections, and I speak from the point of view that I get everyone who has an issue, right? I speak to tenants that are already having an issue with their landlord. So when I don't think all home landlords are terrible. I'm just the one that always sees the terrible ones. Because by the time that you get to me, it's you're having an issue. And so what is very common is that landlords just don't care. Landlords don't care that there's a local city emergency tenant protection that says a renter can't be evicted because of a pet that they obtained during COVID. Nonetheless, when you let them know that there is this protection, they back off until they can try to find some other reason. Another thing that's really important, and now why I'm excited to truly be here today, is the advocacy that I want each and every one of you to do in regards to rent control and just cause protections. And I want to give you a breakdown of what that is and why that's important. And so in many states, you can evict a person for no reason, meaning that you can just give them a notice and be like, you know what? Your lease ended a while back. I don't want you here anymore. Bye, gotta go. Or you can increase the rent to whatever amount that you want, maybe with some notice, with a 30-day notice, some with, no notice, increase the rent. Increasing the rent is inherently evicting a person, because if you're increasing the rent to an amount they can't afford, then they're gonna have to leave. So why is rent control important? Because rent control provides protections to tenants to be able to force a landlord to give a just cause reason. Why are you really evicting this person? Is it because they didn't pay rent? Is it because they breached the lease, attached the lease? What part of the lease did they breach? Did they violate? Is it because they caused something that's called a nuisance? They're causing too much noise, or perhaps they're alleging that the dog could be barking too much. Yes. Do landlords also perhaps can they make up anything? Sure, they can, right? Can they say that you're violating the lease terms, but actually you aren't? Yes, they can. But you can also adapt your rent control ordinance to be able to protect for those types of things. What those types of things? What I just said. So I'll give you an example. We have because we have rent control in the city of Los Angeles, below market rent controlled tenants. That means tenants that pay very low rent because their rents couldn't be raised throughout the years, only a certain amount, and they've lived there for a very long time. So they come in with the lease that says no pets, right? No pets. And they, throughout the years, since they've lived there 10, 15 years, obtain a pet, of course. The landlord knows, they've seen, if anything, the landlord's like come by and like they've pet Scooby. They've been like, oh my gosh, I love you so much, Scooby. I know I just named the dog Scooby. I just did it. Or the cat. It could be cat or dog or rabbit. Point being, hey, Scooby, I love you, right? And then let's say that owner passes and it goes to the kids, right? The kids become the owners now. And the kids come in and they're like, wow, this family's paying $1,100 for a 3-bedroom in the city of LA that can go for $3,100. Huh, how can we make more money off of this? And then they go back and they look at the old lease, and the old lease says no pets allowed. Oh no, what are we gonna do? Huh. Well, thankfully, we in the city of Los Angeles have the Los Angeles Rent Stabilization Ordinance, what we also call LARSO. And LARSO specifically says that if you'd allowed a pet before, you can't now, even verbally or in writing, you can't now go back and say that you can't have a pet now. It's spelled out specifically in the Los Angeles Rent Control. The Los Angeles Rent Control also says you can't, not only does it specifically call out that you can't then not allow a pet after you've allowed a pet, it also states that you can't unilaterally change the terms of the tenancy, meaning that the landlord can't just be like, but I don't care anymore, we're just going to change this. You can't do that. I also bring this up because there's been a very shady management company called LA Apartments Inc. Yeah, I call them out. I call them out, LA Apartments Inc. And what they're trying to do, they became the new management company for a 90-unit building in Los Angeles. And there's a pet clause in all of the different leases that these tenants have that says you can either charge a pet deposit, and if you don't charge a pet deposit, then you can also try to charge a pet rent, and that's negotiated at the beginning of the lease. And so now this management company is coming in and trying to charge pet rent and a pet deposit that it didn't collect, that the prior owner didn't collect at the beginning of the lease term, if that makes sense. The beginning of tenants that they moved in, they decided not to collect that. They negotiated away that term. Now that property management group is trying to say, oh no, we can collect this. We're going to enforce this clause of the lease. But if you haven't enforced the clause of the lease, you drop that clause of the lease. And now this is a unilateral change of terms of those tenancies. I'm just trying to give that example here of how that kind of can work in different ways. Not only did we advocate for rent control in the city of LA, and then only up until maybe 4 years ago, this was like 4 years ago, right before 2019, LA County, for the unincorporated cities in LA County, we were able to obtain rent control through strong advocacy. LA County unincorporated cities did not have rent control. Also because of that, the state of California, tenants advocated fearlessly for the Tenant Protection Act of 2019, also known as TPA. And this is statewide just cause rental protections and rent control protections. So at a minimum, at least now there is some type of rent control and just cause protections for tenants in the state of California. This is now for buildings that were built on or before that are 15 years old. So they're older buildings. Any new buildings aren't going to fall under these rent control protections or these just cause protections. It's like just like the battle that you have with the landlord's lobby. And this goes to my point of the importance of local rent control and actually advocating to your city, to your town, to your borough, right? I think a lot of the time we think that this is going to be regulated by the state or a federal law is going to like blanket help us all. And yes, there needs to be advocacy on a federal level and on a state level. Just like I've shared here, the California Pet Friendly Housing Act helps with government funded housing, but that's government funded housing, right? And a lot of the federal and state bills are going to only cover federally funded housing because federal and state governments feel that they don't want to, they don't want to fight back against market rate housing. Okay, that's the fact. They don't. But city by city, you can. And we have, and by we, I mean advocates on the ground, tenants, community-based organizers. We have now rent control in Maywood, in Bellflower, in Pasadena. It's like I'm naming different cities, but it has been through hard fought advocacy, but it's been done. And in places where there was not any protections ever before, there are protections now, which is quite exciting as a tenants' right advocate who then has a tenant come with an issue that is housing related with their pet. But let's say it's a housing related issue and it's a rent increase. A rent increase for a person with a pet, if they can't pay that rent increase, that means that the pet and that person, their entire family has to move. But if that rent increase is illegal, nobody has to move. This is why I'm like, what's housing got to do with it? This is why housing has everything to do with pets. Because if you increase the rent, you're causing someone to not be able to afford their housing. And that rent, again, could be illegal. That rent increase could be illegal. It could be that they didn't even get a proper written notice for that rent. Knowing your local rent protections, advocating for local rent protections, protect tenants and their pets to be able to remain in their homes. Next. And then I'm going to look at the chats really quick to see if I've missed anything. As I'm looking through the chats, is that just last year, which was interesting, I looked at the pet inclusive housing in LA, and there used to be 13 properties within the 50-mile radius. Now there's only 4 properties within the 25-mile radius, 6 properties within the 50-mile radius of where our offices are located that allow pets without any restrictions. So there's no breed restrictions and there's no size restrictions. There are some type of limits on how many pets you can have, depending on the size of the unit in some of these places. Out of those 4 properties, only one of them didn't have pet fees, no pet deposit, and no pet rent. But all of the other properties required pet rent and pet deposits, which is one of my big, I don't even mean for this to be a pun, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. Oh man, it really is. Number one, I wholeheartedly come from a tenant's right, unapologetically come from a tenant's rights point of view. And I am, hold on just 1 second. I'm so sorry, everyone. I wholeheartedly come from a tenant's rights point of view. And if we are increasing, first off, there is a myth that the damage that pets cause is more than any security deposit. And that's not true. Reports and studies have shown, Mickelson Found Animals came out with a report, the Harbury report, that shows that pet deposits on an average, pet damages on an average are about $200 to $250. In California, a security deposit on an apartment can be 2 times the amount of rent. 2 times the amount of rent, okay? Average rent is $1,500, which it's a lot more, but let's say it's $1,500. First off, in order to get into an apartment, you have to pay the $1,500 of the first month's rent, and then up to $3,000 for a security deposit. So you're telling me that $3,000 isn't going to be enough to cover any type of pet damage and any other type of, damage that's going to incur in the time span that a person's going to live there? Are there exceptions? Are there the rare cases of damage that's going to be exorbitant? Sure, but we don't negotiate away our rights based on the exceptions, okay? And to increase pet fees, or to or when people try to say that, we need to make landlords whole, or we need to make it more, more, in order to be able to encourage landlords to have pets, we need to be able to, we need to allow them to have pet fees. No, y'all, no. First of all, again, I come from a place that's like, what do you mean the lord of the land? Who are you? You're not lording over anything. This isn't even your land. Number 1. 2, no more pet fees. Rents are already too high. How are we adding pet fees? My dog never worked one day of his life. Frankly, Falcor, rest in peace. What up, Falcor? He did not work, not at all. No, he didn't. And he wasn't going to be giving me any type of rent to help me pay for rent. So this isn't to incentivize. That's the word that I was looking for. We don't need to incentivize landlords by encouraging them to charge fees, okay? That's not what we need to do. If we want to incentivize landlords, we can tell them that pets don't actually commit that much damage, that tenants that have pets live longer, are more responsible, frankly, are more caring, and are going to take care of their place a whole lot longer and a whole lot better than tenants that don't have pets. And so I just want to be big on that, because we are, by incentivizing pet fees, what we're doing is we're also disproportionately causing an effect on BIPOC families and low-income communities that can't even afford, that can barely afford the rent as it is. And next, and also a shout out to my pitbullisfamily.org. Hey, because I got this information from them. Always a shout out. Okay, so what are some other ways that we can intentionally advocate for rights? And I'm just looking something a lot in Boise. I'll read these chats afterwards. Okay, one of the biggest ones that is nationwide that's coming around right now is the right to counsel. What is the right to counsel? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you. The right to counsel is the right for tenants, for low-income tenants, and frankly, all tenants that are being evicted to have an attorney. It's kind of like the public defender of the housing world. Currently, in criminal cases, we have the constitutional right to a public defender, right? If you get arrested, you get your Mirandas read to you. And then one of those is if you have the right to attorney, if you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, right? The same advocacy is being put in place, and there's a right to counsels now, the right to counsel, the right to an attorney in eviction cases, all through, thank you, Allison, all through now in Washington, New York, LA County just got it, woohoo. There's other ones, Indiana, Philadelphia. And so why is this important? 90% of tenants go unrepresented in eviction cases, while 90% of landlords are represented. So the balancing of power is completely off, right? And to be able to have a tenant advocate, a landlord advocate on your behalf a landlord, to be able to have an attorney for a tenant changes the game completely. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. And frankly, if you're going to be losing your home and being thrown on the streets, you should have the right to an attorney. And so advocating for a right to an attorney as an animal advocate, number one, there's so many of y'all. Animal welfare is huge. You have such a powerful voice. You have such an incredible voice. That's why I don't know, this is my dream, right? It was my dream to be able to join both of these things. So again, I'm so excited to be talking about this. I'm like, who would have known that here I am talking about the right to counsel to a bunch of badass, can I say that? Well, I already did. Animal welfare advocates, right? To advocate for a right to counsel, because if the person that you're helping that has a pet has an attorney on their side, an eviction attorney that's forced to represent them, you already have an advocate for them automatically, right? We don't have to bridge this gap of like, how do we find this person an attorney? What do we do? No, they're just required to have an attorney because they're being rendered homeless, because housing is a right. So again, I start this conversation with the fact that this is not our land. I will end this conversation or continue to preach the fact that housing is a right. And I want everyone to really wholeheartedly grasp that and understand that and feel that. And if somehow that feels a little bit like, ugh, I don't know. I mean, like, shouldn't tenants have to pay rent? What are they going to do? What are they going to live rent free? What's going to happen to the landlords? Y'all, what's going to happen to us as a society if we continue to do what we need to do for gain and for profit, right? Rent is profit over people, frankly. And I know that what I'm saying isn't very popular. I know that what I'm saying irks people the wrong way. And I also don't care. That's right. I don't, because we need change. We are exhausted of people being thrown on the streets and people and their pets being thrown on the streets. And we're exhausted of pretending that to create market rate housing that no one can afford is going to be the solution to things. It's not. So when people are like, what, you think people should live rent free? Yeah, I actually do believe people should be living rent free, can be living rent free. We are a community. We have left the days that we take care of our community. We have left the days that we tend to our land, right? How many of us, we know all of us just go out to the grocery store and buy food. When's the last time that you actually asked yourself, I wonder what fruit and vegetable was in season, and I'm going to actually go buy that fruit and vegetable that's in season, versus just getting what it is that you want right now. You're like, what does this all have to do with the right to counsel? Oh, everything. Isn't it all intertwined? To be able to have an attorney for a tenant, a low income, normally person of color tenant that's being evicted and taken advantage of, changes the game. Advocating for a right to counsel is advocating for that pet to stay with that owner. Please get involved. It is sweeping the nation. It really is. And if you, there's talking points there on the civil right to counsel.org, the map. If you ever have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me, which segues right into The advocate for rent control, which I already talked about in your local city, county, and state. You know, in rent control, I mean, again, like everything I'm saying could be kind of unpopular. Rent control, yes, it is controlling the rents. Yes, it is minimizing the profit for landlords. Period. That's what we're doing. If you're making a living off of the rent of folks, I'd like to encourage you to consider otherwise. Like that. I'm like, I don't know. Truly, because we need to help one another, y'all. And when people are getting it, and we have 68% of people being pet owners, and at least half of those are renters, we're not going to fix the solution of keeping people with their pets if we're not advocating for housing policies that keep people in their homes. Another big one is for those of your states, and then I'll go ahead, I'm like in the resources, I will state, I will put the specific states that I know don't have written notices. I know one of them off the top of my head, I believe is Texas. I know y'all, hey, for those of us that are going to be at Best Friends in Houston, why don't we all talk about that? I'm like, what? We're like, I don't know where. I'm like, if you see me, then we could just chat about it. I don't know, because we're going to be in Houston. Y'all, written notices to be required before an eviction is filed. Such an easy ask for your local and city government officials. Such an easy ask. If landlords are like, meh, it's going to be more of a requirement for me. You're like, I know, I know, right? And I've already talked about advocating for pet inclusive housing with no pet fees. And the last thing that I want to talk about, yes, is to advocate to end discriminatory insurance policies. I know that the Animal Farm Foundation was doing a lot of work on this. I also know that, another agent, Best Friends, different agencies are doing a lot of work on this. That is more like on the state level. I do want to say really quickly about insurance policies that if you are a person with a disability and you're, if it's an assistance animal and the animal alleviates symptoms of your disability, then insurance companies have to abide by fair housing regulations. It's a little bit more, if you want more questions about that, or you have more questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. Next, I think I'm done. Yes, see? Oh, so great. And then this is, I'm like, I love quotes. The political lives within our very tissues and movements. I'm reading a really awesome book called Embodied Activism. It's here. This is a quote from there because, as I was saying before, I want you all to really realize that our politics and what we do lives within us, right? It's like who you are inside reflects who you are on the outside. So to take a deep look within and like feel yourself, right? If things that I were saying were like, kind of rubbed you, I'm like, that's good. I'm like, yay, that made you feel something. Feel that and really look into what that is. Okay, thank you. I'm like, thank you. Questions, comments?
I think you gave us some great action items. So that is huge. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think a question that I might have for our organization is once we've gone to the website and we've kind of obtained that information, how do you recommend that we get that information to our public so that it's not, hey, I have this problem, now I'm panicking. It's that common knowledge of, hey, this is how we help. This is, it's going to be cultural that they know. Hey, we can figure this out. So what's the best way, do you think, to get that information out to the general communities?
To get the information about renter protections or to advocate?
So for the renter protections, for those coming in to surrender.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think one of the first things is just to ask if they have a written notice. And then to get them that information, particularly for California, I'm happy to connect them to HART, and we work with the different LA Animal Control and also LA County Animal Services, county and city, to be able to provide that information. And I think being able to connect, and we can throw up, or I'll put it in the resources as well after this. There is I think it's called justshelters.org. that gives all the list. That may be wrong. I'm like, that may be wrong. So let me confirm that. But that lists all of the local legal aid organizations that provide housing assistance. For now, I mean, frankly, there isn't really a national core that someone can call to reach out to. I think I'm like, hopefully, right? Dreaming big. I think the biggest message, though, the takeaway is perhaps if it's not having that information in hand to give them, it's letting them know that there are rights. You have rights as a tenant. You have rights. Go home with your dog. Go back home with your dog. Short of you having a notice or something from the court, you don't have to leave your home. And that's scary, right? That's scary to tenants, but it's, and then, and I'm happy also, Heart LA is happy to talk to, and we've helped other folks in other states as well. I mean, we're a small team. Now we're going to be getting calls through all the states. We're a small team, but also happy to help guide folks as well, right? I mean, it's really why I formed Heart LA, was to be able to bridge this gap.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are right at time. Did we want to go ahead and stop the recording?